November 13th, 2022, Moscow, Idaho. What started as a completely ordinary, quiet Sunday morning in an off-campus house quickly spiraled into a tragedy that literally stunned the entire nation. It's a really somber reality, but one we need to deeply understand if we're going to grasp the incredibly complex sequence of events that unfolded right after.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a really close look at the facts in Shadows in Moscow, the case against Bryan Kohberger. Our goal here? To break down the factual, official record of what has become one of the most closely watched investigations in recent U.S. history. Step by step, we're going to build a clear, comprehensive understanding of the publicly reported timeline, the really intricate detective work, and the ongoing court proceedings.
Section 1. The Idaho Student Murders.
Let's take a moment to look at the four victims: Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Santa Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. These were four University of Idaho students, with their entire lives ahead of them. According to police, they were attacked during the early morning hours right inside the off-campus house where several of them lived. And it's absolutely crucial that we pause and acknowledge these four lives lost. Their memories are at the absolute center of every single investigative and legal step we're about to discuss. The whole shebang, everything that follows, is ultimately about finding out exactly what happened to them on that tragic morning.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 2. The Digital Forensic Trail.
In the weeks following the crime, investigators were looking at a massive, incredibly complex puzzle, and they started piecing it together using this fascinating blend of traditional gumshoe detective work and highly advanced forensic science. The first big breakthrough? Surveillance footage. A white Hyundai Elantra was spotted near the crime scene right around the time of the killings. By identifying that vehicle, investigators could then pivot. They started analyzing vast, and I mean vast, amounts of cell phone records, mapping out detailed digital footprints to see exactly who was in the area and, more importantly, how they moved around. But here's where it all connects. This digital trail aligned perfectly with the physical evidence, specifically DNA that was recovered from a knife sheath left right there at the scene. By carefully weaving all these threads together, the physical, the digital, the biological, police zeroed in on a primary suspect, Bryan Kohberger, a graduate student studying criminology just over the state line.
Moving right along to Section 3, the arrest and charges. When you look at the timeline of this investigation, it reveals a relentless, rapid pursuit that ended up spanning across the entire country. So, following the initial tragedy on November 13th, law enforcement dedicated weeks to that painstaking digital and forensic investigation we were just talking about. They were working around the clock, analyzing mountains of data, waiting on complex lab results. And because of that intense, focused effort, the net actually closed incredibly quickly. Just over a month later, on December 30th, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was apprehended in Pennsylvania. That is literally more than 2,000 miles away from Idaho. This timeline brilliantly highlights the sheer scale, the incredible speed, and the massive coordination required for this multi-state law enforcement operation.
So, right after his arrest in Pennsylvania, authorities transported Kohberger back to Idaho to face the justice system. He was formally charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. Obviously, these are incredibly serious charges. They represent the legal culmination of all that meticulously gathered evidence, and they firmly set the stage for the next, highly scrutinized phase of this whole process.
Section 4. The Legal Proceedings.
So, the crucial point is, as this case shifts into the courtroom, there's one bedrock legal principle guiding the entire process: the presumption of innocence. You've probably heard it before, but it basically means a criminal defendant is legally entitled to be considered completely innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. As both the prosecutors and the defense meticulously prepare for trial, sorting through all that evidence and navigating complex pretrial procedures, we have to remember that Kohberger, just like any defendant in the U.S. justice system, is absolutely entitled to this constitutional right. Our goal here is simply to impartially observe this official process as it plays out in front of a judge and jury.
Now, something critically important to understand about these pretrial proceedings is that a lot of the court documents have been sealed or restricted by a gag order. Because the legal process is still ongoing, not all the investigative details have been made public. And, this sealing of documents is actually a super standard protective measure. It's designed to ensure a fair trial and to protect the integrity of the local jury pool. But by strictly limiting that flow of official information, it inherently creates a massive information vacuum for the general public. And, well, that brings us directly to our final point regarding how this case has been consumed by the masses.
Section 5. A nation captivated.
You really have to ask, why did this specific case blow up into one of America's most consuming crime stories? It was essentially a perfect storm. First, the completely unexplained, sudden nature of the killings deeply unsettled people. especially since it happened in what was known as a really quiet college town. Second, the extensive forensics tapped right into our massive cultural obsession with true crime and investigative science. By using cutting-edge DNA tracking and mapping out digital footprints, the case basically showcased modern sleuthing in real time. Add in the widespread media coverage broadcasting this across the country, and well, this unique blend of mystery, intense tragedy, and modern science made the story absolutely inescapable.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast it shows between online speculation and the actual official court records. The internet has been completely flooded with amateur theories, totally unverified rumors, and frankly, a lot of intense armchair detective work. But as with any criminal case, the official court record is the only reliable, factual account we have. It is absolutely vital that we anchor our understanding purely in these official documents, rather than getting caught up in internet sleuthing. That kind of speculation can actually be pretty harmful to the real people involved. The real investigation relied on hard forensic science, physical surveillance, and professional detective work, and for sure that is the substantive case that's actually going to be presented in court.
So it leaves us with this big question. In an age of endless media coverage and nonstop online speculation, how do we protect the pursuit of impartial justice? It's a really profound thought to sit with as you follow this case, or honestly, any high-profile case in the news. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this breakdown helped bring a little more clarity and structure to what is a highly complex and deeply important story. Keep asking those tough questions, always stick to the facts, and I'll see you next time.